Hey guys, just want to check back in with progress, a couple of the projects, and some of the other things that I wanted to hit on. I know I just posted about watercolor paint or water-based paints, and I spoke about tools of the trade previous video, but I wanted to just get back to um, one of the things that I found again going back through some of my daughter's stuff, and believe it or not, I've done some of the paints back or done some of the lures in the past, was with some of these devices. As you can see, um, these here on the left, it says airbrush. Believe it or not, these do work. As a matter of fact, the lure that's on the head of the this group photo here was actually done with stencils and those pens. Um, no air compressor or anything that is needed. Basically, the pen is already exposed on this end. You just have to blow through this end, and the air travels across the tip of the pen and blows a small stream of that colorant on, just like if you were to be using the airbrush. These obviously not very many colors to choose from, so if you've got something basic, and actually with this kit it comes with some stencils, some that are even like fish aquarium type stencils with like the weeds and stuff like that, in case you're doing something like that. Believe it or not, they do work. What's nice about them is they start to dry up on you. You just take a little bit of just a little squirt of vinegar on the tip, and it'll actually kind of bring the ink back out. But I think this kit literally was like $5. So if you don't have an air compressor or airbrush and stuff like that, and you want to just kind of get in, play around with that, that's one way to go. Something that came out a little bit earlier than that even was this device here. Again, you can see Extreme Airbrush Studio. This one here, the markers, instead of being in the case like that there, the markers slide in and the tip is exposed a little bit, and then you literally push this little device here. You can hear it. It's got its own little air pump on it. I mean, it's just a battery operated, a couple of D-cell batteries, I believe. And it's all held within this device. And it comes with this whole container full of markers, probably, like 30 to 40 markers, something like that, of all different kind of colors. And I did do a fishing lure with this. So that again you can pick up, and it's like in the marker section of the kids, like Crayola markers. I think that kit there was I think it was $12.99 a couple years ago, and like I said, this one here is only like $4.99 last winter. Believe it or not, they do work. As long as you have some kind of a primer coat down, you can take the stencils and you can create, just like I said, that lure that's on the title of this group here. That's something very easy that can be done. And so if you're doing something for like a holiday workup or something like that, and you got a bunch of lures just hanging around, or you want to go that route, with airbrushing, it works. It's not necessarily water-based paint, but I'm going to tell you right now that this kit with this gun on it from I believe it's fishingtackle.com. If you go onto their videos, their YouTube videos, and search out how to paint plastic soft baits or soft plastic baits, their kit that they have, which is exactly this, it's water-based ink, is going for $80. This kit, just fancied up more, metal and stuff like that, just, with the different stickers on there, and these kind of markers that fit into that nozzle instead of regular Crayola markers, is going for over $80 right now, and it's the same ink. So just a little pointer there, if you're starting on a budget and you don't have the money or don't have the equipment or room for airbrushes, or have the the knack for it, that's one way to go, and it does work. Obviously, you can, if you don't think the lure at the top of the page is any good, then okay, then move on, whatever. But back to when I had posted already was my baby duckling. Started this, I probably got about 4 hours into this now between actually cutting out the main body, the shape, and then I had a couple more pieces from trimmed lures. Let me see if I can find one. Similar to this here, so if this was a block, I actually cut out a lure, and this is one of the pieces that came out. I cut out the center main body portion to the size of a, shape and size that I wanted, and then I glued on 2 pieces like this onto the side. Once that dried, then I took a rotary tool. I have something similar to a Dremel tool, but it's hooked up to an actual bench grinder, so the cable is driven by the bench grinder. But I basically just started shaving it down until I got to where the actual glue connection point was, so that kind of gave me that shouldered profile there. And then underneath, I basically did the same thing. I just kept sanding this out, kind of just kept checking with my fingers the depth and the thickness of the wings, and then I left enough material to where it was glued on that it was going to stay. Okay, so I wasn't really planning on making this, but like I said, you start out with a piece of wood and you never know really it comes out with a life of its own. I never, intended on this even being a bird. I was going to try to make something wider like this for a frog body that I was going to do for the flap-tail build. But believe it or not, who knows, nice springtime bait might work. There's other ones out on the market already, but nothing like this. So just something unique. I have float tested this already, and it floats basically directly from the beak right down the center of the body, so that the tips of the wings, bottoms of the wings, are basically, half of them are in the water and half of them are out. Okay, so I already started putting a hook hanger here, and I'm going to drill this out some more and do some water tests to get some weight in the tail. What I want to eventually do is get this lure to kind of be canted in the water just a little bit, so that the front half of the wings are out of the water, but yet the water still travel through this area in here. What I'm going to do in here to create a wake bait, I'll trace these out on a piece of paper and then transfer that over to the carbon sheet, and I'll cut that out, and then I'm going to glue those pieces in here. So that is going to give that effect of when it's going through the water. Hopefully it causes it to kick it back and forth a little bit here to get that action of a stranded duckling. Once I get that in there, and sim test to see if I can get that side-to-side movement like that in the water, I might suspend some smaller flap tails or something off of the back, or even off of the bottom here like this. And so that kind of mimics maybe the legs hanging down, or even if I can incorporate somehow into the treble hook of either taking 2 of the spines on the treble hook itself and maybe filling in a gap, so when that's flopping around in there, it kind of resembles the legs of the duck kind of swimming around. But this year's 4 coats of paint. Basically start out with a yellow base, and then the darker areas I dry brushed or dry dabbed on. You can't really tell in this light here. I'm in the shop, so it's not real good lighting, but it is kind of a brownish tint to it. It's actually a folk art color shift brown, so that way it gets a little bit of flash to it. Underneath I didn't really do. That's actually some of the primer showing through the yellow, which you want to kind of have the silhouette from underneath. You want to have a darker color, so when it's when the fish is looking up at the surface or up against the sky, you have a nice sharp silhouette. We'll talk about that later as far as getting a light refraction, stuff like that, of what the fish actually sees underneath and what you can do to kind of, you know, give a strike zone or strike target for a fish. If they see something flat like or something wide like this, they usually go towards the front of it or come up behind it, nail it, and then turn. Well, if you have a really thin profile, they will only see pretty much the darkest spot or the darkest shadow. So having a wider body like that, it's going to block out a lot of light. As a matter of fact, if you were to look up at the head, you probably won't even see the head at all. So this portion back will be seen or have a dark silhouette. So I mean, it's not a real necessity to have to paint the bottom in detail. The top, obviously, you know, if you want it to look, that's more for you. I mean, the fish doesn't even see the top, so I mean, you can put all kinds of detail in there. And I mean, I did do a three-dimensional, let's see here. I did do three-dimensional eyes with just a drop of epoxy, and I did you know, I get the sunshade reflection off the eyes to give it a three-dimensional look. So that's just a black dot painted on, or the yellow, clear epoxy, and then I paint just the tip of the retina area of the eyeballs with just a little bit of white, and that gives it that three-dimensional look. I'm not going to bother putting an actual bill or beak on this bird, just for a simple factor on this lure, I should say. Just for a simple fact that, you know, I don't want nothing catching the water and causing it to dive down like that. I want it to ride up. So I'm actually going to put my line anchor probably right about in here. So as I pull on it, it kind of actually helps lift this up out of the water, getting that water directed towards the clear fins or lip material that I'm going to put in here that cause it maybe get that kind of like jitterbug walk, if you can think about it. Right now, the way this is with balsa and the alternating coats of paint with just the water clear on each layer just to seal it in, it weighs probably almost an ounce and a half, probably, I would say. So I mean, once I put in probably maybe another ounce into here, depending on how much rake I want to get this to actually sip out of the water, you know, we'll be looking closer to 3 ounces. But not a bad way to go, because once you paint it and start doing that, you're adding weight to the lure. If you were to just take this, prime it, drill it, and, you know, swim test it, get what you like, and then go back and paint it, you're adding almost a half an ounce between the paint and the final clear coat. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that kind of stuff. So I'll show you a finished product here in a couple of days once I get this swim tested and put some of my material in there, and hopefully the water stays open long enough here that I can get out there and then kind of give you a video of that swimming. Also, got to work on the squirrel flap tail that I'm working on for y'all, and basically I told you I was going to show you how to get rid of that gap that most lures have, so you can actually see through the lure. Again, if you're in the water looking up, or if the fish is looking up, you can actually see that joint in the body. So they're going to pick one section to go after. Normally they go after the head. Usually that's the thickest portion. That's where they nail. If they go to the back, they're actually hitting low. You actually see follow-ups and the fish will lunge or surge at the lure, come up, grab, and they'll miss, and they'll actually turn, and you end up seeing the side of the fish as it turns and goes away. So this way it brings the shadow or the profile of bait a little bit forward, so if they are coming up and lunging, you have a better chance of hitting the head hook. And then I'll show you just a second here what I'm doing in the rear section to get the hooks better in the strike zone. You see I made a little divot here on the bottom, because I'm going to sink this treble hook in there so it's not flapping around and getting hook rash. Plus, with the treble hook up like this, I'm actually going to mount this backwards, so my big side or bottom side of my hook is actually going to be facing forward. Hopefully that kind of gives the the movement of maybe the front legs of the squirrel kind of being pulled. Don't know if it makes any difference, but that's what we're going to try. I just started putting a little bit of detail uh, into the nose portion of it, a little bit into the ears. Um, this is poplar. This is actually a wooden dowel in the hardware store. I believe it was 3/4 in diameter that I started with. This is very hard, so this is something that I'm not doing a lot with hand. I mean, this is being cut with the bandsaw and motorized equipment. So a little bit more advanced than somebody that doesn't have that stuff, or a younger individuals that maybe are still living in the home with mom and dad. It's a little bit more difficult to deal with. But anybody else, if you got the tools, you start out doing stuff like that. Now onto the back section, you can see that the back is completely flush, so when the water travels over the body of the lure to the back, it causes some turbulence. And I'm going to put a large Colorado style blade from a bucktail on the back, mimicking kind of the tail of a squirrel. So that's going to have plenty of water flow going over that to cause that to jumble around and get that flat tail effect. Now, I'm going to do this lure with a line 2. I normally don't do that. I usually do eye screws. But in this circumstance, just for you guys, I'm going to please everybody that doesn't believe in them, I'm going to make a line through. My anchor is going to be about here, and I'm going to go straight through the body up to this portion of the front half. So if you look at the front half where that hole is, I'm going to make an eye loop on my leader, and I'm going to push it through that, and it'll come out right about here. Okay, so that's going to be directly lined to the front of the lure, straight up to the back, directly connected to the rear piece in one location up here. Okay, there's going to be a line through, plus then on the rear portion, you can see where the burn mark is from the sandpaper. Just below that, I got the hole. That's going to be a screw to hold the drop line or drop leaders down into the water. So it's going to be held in place with a screw. Now here is the actual leader I'm using. Okay, so you can see the screw. I have a loop right there. So now, if you were to look at the front portion, so there's a loop. We're going to have that leader there. This is actually going to connect right there. So I'm going to have line-to-line connection between both hooks, the head hook and both of the rear hooks. This is going to be a drop-down leader. I'm going to actually drop the hooks down about 3 inches below the rear portion of the lure. So once this is screwed into place, it's hard to do with one hand here, but you can see I've got saw marks in the wood. Once I screw this in, these lines, I'm going to glue them into place into those marks. The top portion will be screwed in. That'll be the front connection between the front half of the body and the rear half. And then my lines are going to drop down about 3 inches, and I'm going to have hook hangers below that. So I'm going to have the hooks down and into the strike zone of the tail portion of this lure. Okay. To get rid of that gap that I talked about, you need a 45 and a 45 degree cut. So some of the swim baits that you see, like this one here, you can, they're straight in line. There's obviously there's some nylon wrapping in here, but if this was a swim bait with eye screws, you could actually see through the gap in here. Some will have a small indentation for like a hinge type or a door hinge type a joint for it to move. Some will just be a couple screw eyes in that, and you'll have you'll be able to see through that whole section. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just one thing I'm taking into this build is that if you do a 45-degree cut, I did two to get that bottom 45 and then a top 45. And then I also cut the rake of the rear section at a 45. So no matter how you're looking at this, from what angle, you can't see through to the other side without seeing the lure. That makes sense. Just something, it's a little bit more complicated to do. As you can see, I don't have it sanded to finish or anything like that, but I'm leaving a little bit of a gap for that front leader portion to hook on to the rear section, this one here. So now I have line directly from my fishing line right to the lure, through the lure directly to this. So no matter what hook is getting hung on, it's a direct connection straight through. This is a 0.40 stainless wire, so you're gonna have a lot of strength there. You're not gonna be pulling this out once it's in a place, painted, and all that stuff. It's gonna last a long time. With this wood and the way that I'm doing it with that line through like that, I'm gonna have a lot of strength, but I'm still gonna have a good amount of movement for that tail to flap around. Plus, with that eye loop being on the top, not only are you getting side to side movement, you're also getting the up and down hinge like this. So as I'm retrieving it, what's going to determine kind of the speed that I go is how fast I need to draw it or how hard I need to pull on it to pull the head of the squirrel just above the surface of the water, but yet the tail section will stay level in the water. So I'll be carrying that weight just like a boat from the front of the keel down the center and off the back, and you're going to get all your turbulence back here to kick that flap tail. You get a spin around or back and forth. You're going to get a lot of action, even though this won't necessarily have to be retrieved very fast to get it. I mean, if I can kind of mimic what it's going to do in the water, it's going to be up just a little bit like this. And they have that side-to-side action just a little bit as that flap tail is going back around. So it's not going to be a whole lot. It's not going to be like a paddle tail, soft lure or anything like that. But it's going to have that big blade back there kicking back and forth like that. And it's going to grab the tail and just be enough to kick that back and forth. So it's going to mimic, an actual squirrel swimming in the water. Not to say that a squirrel's musky's number one choice for a lure, but there's guys out there that have proven that bat figured kind of lures or ducklings, they work, and the guys are making them. So this is going to be my version. Once I get it all together, I'm just going to prime it. I'm not going to do a paint on it right now. I'll do it eventually. But once I get the swim action that I want and figure out, if it needs weight added anywhere, right now it floats perfectly level in the water. Halfway up the body here. So once I put some eyes in here and do some of that stuff, it might drag it down just a little bit. So I might, just play around with it. I'll get it going for you guys. But then this one, I will make a master of this mold and duplicate it. I think I'll be the only one that actually has a squirrel type lure out there on the market. But just for you guys, I'm going to walk you through and show you this one, and we'll see what it does. It's something I can use year round, or if it's really getting really boring out and not getting any bites or anything like that, or any follows. Who knows? Throw something out there like this that isn't like anything else they've seen. You might be enough just to spark their interest and at least get a follow up, so you can at least do some sighting, find out where they are. But we're gonna finish this one here first. I think I'm gonna have this one finished probably a little bit before Christmas. once I get it done, if I can get a swim test out there and get a video of this, I'll put the clear coats on it and everything like that, and then who knows, maybe I'll give this one away. We'll see. We'll see how many members we can get up to. I think we got 10 now. Spread the word. If you like these videos or find something that your buddies will like or something like that, go ahead and ask them to join, and we'll see what we can come up with, and maybe I'll do some kind of a drawing of like all the members, and I'll draw out a hat, and we'll see if somebody can get this one, or just let me know what you guys think. See if that's a worthwhile investment. The squirrel, I'll be keeping the master. I'll be making some more. So if once I get a swim test video of that, if you like those, I'll do some painted ones, and I'll put those up for sale. And probably start that one out at probably 30. This one, like I said, we'll give it away, but something like this, an original, no problem. 25 for this one also, but we'll do a giveaway with this one once we get some videos and get this finished. I'll go from there. As you can see, I'm kind of slacking here. I still gotta cut these out. These are gonna be squid plug heads. Gentleman here has asked for them for musky fishing in Wisconsin here, so those marks are basically just the spine of the wood. I put these in water and floated them, let them sit, and when they come to a stop, then you have your spine on the top. So then I mark all the tops. That gives you your natural balanced buoyancy. Just another little trick there if you're doing something like that. Always have your spine marked. It's the same thing they do with archery with their arrows, their hollow shaft arrows and stuff like that. They'll find a spine. Just gives you a more consistent, you can throw this out there and you can tell if it's going to roll or anything like that. If you got your spine to the side and you throw this out in the water and you haven't weighted right, it's going to roll. So just another little tidbit. Again, keep this under 30 minutes, and just to let you know where we're at, and hopefully we can get some of these done before Christmas here, depending on what kind of time I get. Pretty soon the water's going to be frozen over. I'm going to be switching to ice fishing. So got any questions or comments, go ahead and post them at the bottom. Again, if you got any more guys that want to join, go right ahead. I'm going to try to keep doing this as long as I possibly can. As far as building lures, I'm going to try to change it up each lure I'm going to try to do a little bit different. Like that swim bait, I'm going to do a little bit different. I won't show you a whole lot about these, but I'm going to mold those. As you can see, I've been kind of busy. I had to order a lot more molding supplies. So Reynolds Chemicals and Smooth On has gotten my business here lately. Just this is what I've got a hold of. So I'll let you know a little bit more about those later on down the road. But there you go. You guys have a good Sunday night. Have a good week. I'll check in a couple bit more. I'll get a swim video up of this one once I get the materials and the wings. We'll get it figured out. We'll get that working, and I'll mess around with the squirrel a little bit more, and see if I can get that set up and weighted and primed, so I at least put it in water and see what it does, and kind of tune it from there. But there you guys go for tonight. Have a good one.